to your very first breakout session for the WIOA Summit. If we could go to the next slide, please. I'll be your moderator for today. I'm Susan Flessner with the Workforce Services Division of Will County. And I'm joined by my colleagues, Jeff Hubert from Lake County Workforce Development, Jessica Barkwill from DuPage County Workforce Development Division, Mary Gajak from the Workforce Investment Board of Will County, Ted Duckett from the Illinois Department of Employment Security, and Sherry Sparks from the Department of Human Services Division of Rehabilitation Services. So thank you all for joining us. We're going to start off with a poll, if we could please. Would like everyone to weigh in on the poll, what type of organization you represent, just so we can get an idea or a little glimpse. We can't see you, at least not the way my screen's set up. So if we could get everyone to check one of the boxes for which organization they represent, or I guess those are circles. That way we'll have an idea of who's part of our discussion here. Kirsten, how long do we let that go?
We still have votes coming in. We're at about 34 seconds and we have 78% of the people have voted. Would you
Wow,
like
you guys are quick. That's great.
Very quick. So we'll give everyone like 5 more seconds and then we'll close it out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, it is closed. And then I'm actually going to share the results so all the attendees can kind of see who's joining us today.
Okay, great. Well, it looks like we're well represented across all the partner agencies and everyone who participates in the workforce system. So thank you all for joining us today. We could have the next slide, please. Our presentation is coming to you from the Northeast Economic Development Region. As you can see, we're the pink Economic Development Region in the top right-hand corner of the state. We represent the 10 counties of Cook, DeKalb, DuPage, Grundy, Kane, Kankakee, Kendall, Lake, McHenry, and Will. We represent almost 9 million people in terms of population, which is almost 70% of the total population of the state of Illinois. As you can see there, our employment base is nearly 4 million, which represents almost 75% of the number of workers in the entire state. And we have almost 70% of the employers at over 237,000. So obviously with the inclusion of the city of Chicago and Cook County, and as well as several of the collar counties that are densely populated, we make up a significant portion of the state in terms of employers, employees, and overall population. Next slide, please. We call our organization the Workforce Partners of Metropolitan Chicago. We've actually been working together regionally for almost 20 years. You'll see our mission vision statement there in terms of what we do, and then a list of leadership teams from each of the workforce areas. We are represented by Title I directors and workforce board directors from each of the workforce areas that make up our region. Next slide, please. And here's a little information about the various projects we've worked on over the years. We recently finished a region-wide incumbent worker training, knowing that businesses don't recognize county lines or workforce area lines in terms of when they go to hire employees. We've worked together on multiple projects, including serving businesses that overlap. In fact, I just got a call the other day from Lisa Shabak in DuPage County, or an email, I guess it was, saying, you know, we've got a business that's hiring here. They also have a location in Mokina, which is Will County. We'll loop you in when they start hiring. Just making those kinds of connections with our colleagues in the region has been invaluable, both in serving job seekers, but particularly serving employers in the area. And that's what we're here to talk about today in terms of the formation of our regional business services team. Next slide, please. And I will now turn it over to my colleague, Jeff Hubert, who will talk to you a little bit about the genesis of how our regional team was formed. Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Susan. Hello, everyone. As Susan said, my name is Jeff Hubert, and I'm an employment specialist in Lake County, LWIA 1, which is in the far northeast corner of the state. Directors from 7 local workforce areas in the Northeast Economic Development Region, or DCEO, came together annually, except during the pandemic, and we did it virtually, to have facilitated conversations about strategic plans for the following year. The concept of a regional business service team became part of the region's 2019 strategic plan. It was broken down into 2 phases so that the Title I business services team members could get comfortable together and talk about what they had to do, then add in the partner agency staff working on business services. It made sense because we needed buy-in, and it's not a competition, and much more work could be done if familiarity with each other and shared employer information and best practices. So by getting together, we were able to pick up the phone or send an email a little bit easier. Pictured on this slide is a roundtable discussion that was required of employees taking part in our joint TDL job fair for LWIA 1 and LWIA 2, which is Lake and McHenry counties. We picked a central location, invited employers from both regions in TDL. There was a survey sent out pre-job fair asking about current status of their industry, which is the TDL industry, asking about their pain points, hiring needs, educational needs, and participants were required to attend a pre-job fair discussion around their industry. So as you can see, everyone's pictured there on the table. These are all TDL employers. Next slide, please. The first meeting was held in April 2019 to launch the Regional Business Service Team meeting. Besides an awesome lunch, the initial meeting covered a lot of ground. We heard from all the directors indicating that this was something they wanted to see happen, and they wanted it to be successful. Together, we selected some initial agenda topics and established where the meetings were going to be held. It was great to see other American job centers and how they're set up and how they're staffed, et cetera, stuff like that. Our first meeting site officially chosen was Kankakee, which was a 2.5-hour trip for us in Northern Illinois. I grew up in the area, so it was like a homecoming for me. In fact, the director in Kankakee had attended the same high school where my father and uncle taught. For the first meeting in Kankakee, each local area did a presentation on how they do business services. And there were some differences we hadn't anticipated. So everyone was given the same assignment on describing how they could conduct business services in their workforce area. 2 areas did a PowerPoint presentation. 1 area had an outline on paper they distributed to the group. Others were prepared to talk about what they do. And I believe there was 1 area that just made it up on the fly. They were good snacks, and we had a chance to network with all our colleagues as well. Like I said earlier, it was good to see how some of these American job centers are set up. Next slide, please. As you can see, there's a lot of information on this slide here. This is our regional business service team work plan. We wanted to make sure to convey that this process was planned out. We needed buy-in, and it had to be a value add proposition to get the buy-in needed to be successful. So the 2019 Regional Business Service Team Work Plan was developed with discussion topics, scenarios for team members to think about, responding together as a region, integrating versus competition, learning objectives, local presentations, and homework between meetings. 1 homework assignment was business service data, and we had to present it at the next meeting. So what we looked at was, what data does your LWIA currently collect about business service activities? How often is that data collected? Why do you collect this data? Reporting, program planning, decision-making, or other? Are there other data items that would be valuable to have? And that was a really important one right there. What are they? Why don't you collect them now? Why would you want this data? What would it tell you? Great discussions took place after this meeting with the sharing of the data best practices. Another homework we talked about was Who are our core partners and what does integration look like? As you can see, it was a step-by-step process. So once again, thank you. And let me send it over to my partner, Sherry. Sherry, next slide, please.
All righty. Well, thank you very much. And I'm happy to be here in collaboration with all of the other partners. Next slide, please. All righty. So this shows a little bit about how a typical meeting would look. We do meet in the different locations that was previously discussed. But for those of you who know me, my title is Workforce Development Unit Manager, which I'm statewide for the Division of Rehabilitation Services. But I had 3 team members that had previously been participating with the group. Biswa Fayel, Michelle Velez, and Angelica Rodriguez had done a great job of connecting. I will never forget my first day up there with the group because it was a very, very cold day outside. And I was trying to learn how to navigate the Chicago area and got a few tips from my team. But when I went inside, it was very warm, very accommodating. I connected with Pat, I connected with Linda, and there was just a lot of new team sharing that went on that day. We had a presentation talking about some of the work for returning citizens. All of the other groups in the room went around and shared information and what they were doing. And at the very end, we were treated to a sponsored lunch, which we did greatly appreciate. Then after that, we went on a tour around the facility, which frequently happened. But during this particular day, we were walking around the building and we happened to see this framed certificate on the wall of some kind of an award-winning program. Well, being the inquisitive minds that we are, we wanted to learn more about the 5 Steps to Your Next Job program being conducted in March of 2020. So we were able to connect with a very accommodating lady by the name of Maureen Mueller, who sat down with us and explained about this 5-day program where you started and ended hopefully with a job. And we were very, very excited about this. We actually shared this with some of the other locations in the state, and we're hoping to develop this when COVID hit. So unfortunately, you all know what happened there, and we all got pulled in some different directions. But if you're like me, you're probably now wondering, what was this 5-step program? So I will share it in a very, very brief format. Basically, this program met from 10 to 12 each day with the College of Lake County in Building 4 or other locations as designated. And what they did on the first day is all the participants just kind of got acquainted and talked about themselves and their skills. Day 2, they researched local employment trends to find free training and resources that were out there. Day 3, they documented their knowledge. They started making sure they had their applications, their media, their email, their letters, or resumes that they were going to need to apply for jobs. By day 4, they had already started identifying target companies and developing their elevator speech and practicing a networking technique. So by day 5, now they're actually ready to rehearse or do actual interviews. And as I understood from Maureen, a lot of times what they do is they invited an actual employer in on the 5th day so that our customers that had attended could learn and hopefully have an interview, and that might lead to their next job opportunity. So that's just in a nutshell the 5 steps to your next job. But I share that because it's just a good example of what the team camaraderie has been and how we can all help each other to work together. And, how we can continue to work on integration. If, one partner pays for one aspect of something a customer needs, and then maybe another agency such as ours could pay for the other aspect of it. But it's really been a wonderful experience. They've made the Division of Rehab Services feel very comfortable. They're very sharing. And I think it's been a great partnership. So to learn a little bit more, I would like to introduce our colleague, Jessica Barkwill, who is with the DuPage County Workforce. Jessica.
Thank you so much, Sherry, for that introduction. And what a great example of how just being with each other regionally and in each other's workspaces and locations has brought new ideas to our minds that we might not have otherwise been aware of. So I really appreciated that story. If you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So a little bit of information on different topics and agenda items that were covered towards the end of 2019 going into 2020. Our business services team members participated in a certification training on business engagement through Business U. Different topics that were covered in that training were value propositions, prospecting, communicating benefits to employers, really great topics that some of us who may have previous sales experience were familiar with, but I think it was really important to go back to those points and remember how we can use those sales tools and engagement with our business services workforce tool. Oh, excuse me. Our staff also planned a regional TDL job fair together. We've worked on regional incumbent worker training outreaches together. We've discussed ways to put together materials to update partner agencies on what's going on with our individual teams. And it's been pretty amazing to see the type of work that's been able to be accomplished by working together versus independently. Just the scope of the TDL job fair, for example, being able to sort of lift and shift that job fair model in different locations and engage different employers. I feel like from my perspective, it's made our jobs a lot easier and more effective by communicating best practices. That's really one of the biggest takeaways from this regional initiative for me personally. The last meeting of 2019 was a meet and greet with our core partner staff. So we had our Title I folks, and then we had IDES, our partners from DRS, and that was an in-person meeting here in DuPage County, which was really sort of fortuitous timing with COVID-19 hitting in 2020. I think it was really fantastic that we had one more opportunity to all meet together in person and solidify those relationships before we ended up moving virtually. And that was really important, you know, given everything that happened with COVID-19, that we already had this regional system in place. We had meetings scheduled and we had each other to lean on and look to for best practices in navigating a really unprecedented situation. If you can move to the next slide, please. So a little bit more about the topics that were covered in 2020 once the pandemic hit, going into early 2021. All of her meetings have been virtual, which, you know, I loved going out to visit our different partner locations and seeing the different workforce buildings in different counties. But there can be, you know, it can be said that being virtual lended itself to more people being able to attend easier. So I don't think that being virtual slowed down our collaboration at all. We utilized our meetings to talk about different conference meeting software systems, different text message applications, ways that we could utilize technology to reach not only business customers, but engage our clients in those job opportunities as well, to, you know, hopefully increase that supply and demand. We also shared updates from every area and agency on what the heck was going on with COVID-19. I think it was pretty interesting at the start of the pandemic. We all had anticipated, you know, looking back on it, we were anticipating thousands of job seekers knocking on our doors, not being able to find enough employers to, you know, take these people in and staff these people and provide job opportunities for these job seekers. I think after a few months, we realized that that expectation, it was actually going to flip, and we would have tons of job seekers and, tons of employment opportunities and not as many job seekers looking to fill them. So just being able to communicate, you know, what's happening with our employers together regionally, it helped, you know, for me, assure me that I wasn't crazy and that other people were seeing the same thing that I was seeing, and we could share what are we going to do? How are we going to get creative to meet these workforce needs regionally? We also had a focus on dislocated worker activities, including WARN events, which were held to assist individuals, how do we pull that data? How do we capture that data? How do we best assist both the employers and the employees who are being affected for WARN events? So that was really beneficial and a really important time. We also had training on a new system. DCO introduced EBS to us, which is a system that allows us to access business information that otherwise we might not be able to access in a way that was, very valuable for more targeted prospecting. So that was great to be able to get that training together and share ideas for how are we going to utilize this fantastic system to benefit our employers and make our jobs easier. And then we also did put together a schedule of joint trainings, including prospecting for new business customers that was held recently through our Business U facilitator. We talked about doing panels for large scale hiring events. How do we continue to do outreach? How do we nurture these relationships in a time that's unprecedented? So lots of great and important things that we're able to do regionally together throughout the last year. And with that, I will pass it over to Mary Jack.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's been my pleasure to be a part of the regional initiatives for many years now, and I have learned that through especially incumbent worker, I'm going to talk about the first bullet point. Team members from local area call team members from another local area. I would have been dead in the water without my without my regional peeps as far as how to navigate the incumbent worker training. And each area, as we know, can develop it more to its own needs. However, there are nuances of the program that are statewide, and working through all of that has been very valuable. I can just call several of you for many, many years now and say, what are you doing now? Oh, what form do you have? Please share that. And I can't say enough about how valuable it is to have those relationships that you can just pick up the phone and call someone about that program. And I'm going to let each one share different ideas about how it's been valuable to you personally one-on-one. Jeff, would you like to start? Or
Yes,
no,
thanks.
I guess I'm going to go. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yep, that's okay. Thanks, Mary. Well, hello again, Jeff Hubert from LWIA 1. Here's an example of sharing of information that went very smooth because of our meetings together as a region. Since we had actually worked together with LWIA 2 to do a TDL job fair, joint job fair, the familiarity between our two groups was pretty good, and we constantly email back and forth. But Jake from McHenry County called, and he had a young adult in need of a work experience that was taking CNC instruction. The customer had just moved to a border town between the two counties, so he didn't have any employers in that area, and he asked if I had any recommendations. Well, I did have some employers, and I made an introduction. The employer agreed to do a work experience for the young adult. So, and as Mary said, I've also called my teammates for incumbent worker training questions, and I have to make a few this week as well. So as you can see, just being able to email and not introduce yourself every time, the familiarity to pick up the phone and dial it and know that they're going to answer on the other end, and freely share information on employers. I know in sales industry, it would have been tough for me to share some of my employers and my contacts because they were mine. But you really have to be transparent and be open to make it work. And by some of these homework sessions and by talking through some of these at some of our regional meetings, we were able to do that. And now let me throw it over to Jessica, so she can share her story.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, I think given the fact that we're all in business development, relationships are very important to all of us. So I think that this regional model really lended itself to our personalities and our professional strengths, which are networking, that sharing of information that Jeff talked about. And what a blessing to be able to be in a situation where we don't have that competitive aspect. We don't have, monetary incentives that are maybe existing in other industries and sales. We really have no barriers to collaboration, and we all have by nature of facing the same challenges, really, I think, have a lot of respect for each other and respect for the way that the information that each individual person has in this regional collaboration. I know that this has benefited me greatly, being able to reach out. I've reached out to Jeff with questions about incumbent worker training. We've collaborated with Will County on some of their on-the-job training best practices. They've been super generous in sharing different templates and best practices with us. We've had employers who have locations in 2 separate counties. One employer has a location in DuPage as well as Kane. They wanted to talk about apprenticeships and how do they get that going. And we were able to work with King County and our apprenticeship intermediary to have that conversation as a team, which I think showed to the employer that we really were committed to making that happen for them. By crossing those regional, taking that next step and not having them have a meeting with DuPage County and then another meeting with King County and then a meeting with the apprenticeship person. I think, employers are busy. So anytime that we can address their needs all in one go, it's win-win for everybody. It's, I think, again, especially with COVID happening and just a lot of questions and a lot of new challenges and new obstacles facing us, being able to pick up the phone, send an email, know that we're going to see each other in a few weeks on a meeting where we can, hash something out together. It's been super invaluable. And being able to connect and learn more about our employer partners, our folks that are our friends at DRS and IDES. Again, it gives us more tools to share with our employers, which is huge, at least from my perspective. We don't need to be the end all be all, but we can be that one-stop shop by connecting all of these other employer partners, which helps our employer partners, it helps our employers. So it's been fantastic. It's been a fantastic experience.
Ted, do you have anything you want to add to this?
Certainly. Theodore IDS. This partnership has been invaluable as we move forward. I'll provide one example of the connectivity among our partnerships that really points out how it can work. I had a conversation based on referral with a global HR person. It turned out to be they had locations in McHenry County and locations in Kankakee County. And the local HR representatives were working with the local LWIAs. However, they were not able to transmit the information up to the global HR person with firm understanding. Because of the partnership that we've developed with this regional team, I was able to call LWIA 1, business service representatives there, LWIA 11, and have a joint conversation with the global HR person to resolve information to allow them to totally understand the flow of incumbent worker training and the OJT process as it applies in Illinois. That would not have been possible without this regional initiative in which we've created partnerships that work. So
That's
that for me is just one example of where this partnership really points out as a plus to what we do. And then I'll move this over to Sherry. Sherry.
Sherry, you're on mute. You need to unmute Sherry.
Talk a little bit about job fairs. Thank you, Theodore. As you all know, job fairs are very important to our workforce development process. And, when we could do the live job fairs, obviously we did. Now many are all in the virtual format. But one of the last job fairs that we actually participated in the area was the second annual Lake County Job and Resource Fair for individuals with disabilities. And Bismuth WIOA was our representative at that event, which was right on the cusp of the whole COVID situation occurring. And we did follow all protocols and wore the appropriate PPE and safety concerns, but it was held in an outdoor setting. And, it's really a great opportunity to share information about our different agencies, because as we all know, You may have some actual hires that day or within the next week or so, which I do understand there were some hires that day through Goodwill Great Lakes, for example. But as long as you're sharing the information, you're meeting with the customers, that seed is planted. And though it may not bring fruition today, it will somewhere down the road. So like I say, anytime we can be part of a job fair and learn more about the other companies in the area, we really appreciate those kind of opportunities. The other thing that's really great too, I think, from success stories is again, all the sharing that takes place, all the job opportunities to learn about businesses. We all know that employers have the employer fatigue because there's so many of us, and maybe we've all reached out to these employers at one time or another. But our whole idea with the sharing opportunities is that we'll reach out once and all of us can participate and learn. So I think this group has just been very good about reaching out. Hey, we're going to have this presentation with ABC Company. We'd like for you to join in. And I'd like to think that our team is also reaching out with these same kind of opportunities. And we'll continue to work together on all of these great events. There'll be more job fairs in our future. But again, I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to participate in this regional business initiative.
Oh, that's great. I'd like to move on to the next bullet point. Team members from one local area plan and execute activities with team members from other local outside regional meetings. And I have to say that it seems like we were so used to doing job fairs. It was becoming apparent that we needed to share job hiring opportunities across county lines, LWIA lines, and cooperate, because together we have so many businesses that need people from more than one county, more than one area. And we have a lot of people that cross those areas to go to and from their job. And so it's been a lot harder now, though, that we haven't been able to meet in person. It's been harder, but yet I will say, with the help of, Ted, for number one on our team here, has made it possible to show us virtual platforms for trying to do some of that hiring in a virtual way. And it's ideas like that and the help of his department as well, spreading the word for us about different events through through IDES. It really is so helpful to get the right words out on behalf of the businesses so that they can find some people to come into their doors. I also want to say that we have the gift of great coordinators with our whole team. We have someone who really does spread the word with us and for us. And I know personally we have everybody on the business teams in our constant contact database. They get a copy of everything that we do here in Will. And I know we send it up to the website that we have for the regional business team. And we can go there and get information on other people's job fairs or hiring events, whatever that might be, and anything else that would include businesses. Businesses is just the number one priority for us to make sure they get everything they need. So I think having the coordination of a regional team has been key to our success. Jeff, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I can only reiterate what I said previously, and these regional interactions have made it easier. We meet monthly as a local business service team, and we share our engagement with employers. We share our local, like we do an employer snapshot monthly. We share that with our local team. And then we also share, if we have something that we need to share with amongst the region, we can send it to one of our coordinators for the region, and they blast it out to all our team members in the Northeast section of the state. So it's really helped in the marketing of our events. Our viewership has went up because of our marketing with our partners. So that just the marketing alone was valuable for us. So that's all I'd like to add at this time. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next bullet point. Team members from one local area share information on their own and ask questions of another. I think we've pretty much established we have a great connection that way. But what I want to say about that a little bit further is that when we have business customers, it's important for them to not get involved in the details of our business and the nuances of our business services. We bring them services that are valuable to them without knowing who's behind the scenes. And an example of that is during the when we initiated the 1E emergency grant for COVID just a year ago. And we had a situation where we were all involved in that. We got the funding. We needed to reach out to businesses that were eligible. And it just so happened that one of our local businesses, I call it local businesses, received an invitation to be a part of this application process. And it turns out, as I started reviewing her application that she spent a lot of time on, she was sent that by a local chamber, but she unfortunately was in Cook County, just barely in Cook County. And as soon as I looked at it, and I talked with her a couple different times and asked her questions, I realized, wow, she's got a great application here. It was so easy for me to refer her. And she had gone to so much work, and I had to disappoint her by saying I couldn't help her, but I could make a connection with her to the Cook County group. And I'll tell you what, Cook County was very responsive. Within a day, she had that application. I just forwarded it on to Cook County. They were able to get her into their system right away. And without that connection, it would have taken me a little while to figure out what to do. But because of our relationships that we have built through this collaboration with the regional group, made it very simple. And that way the company didn't have to be disrupted with service. She didn't care which one of us helped her. She just needed help. And because of this relationship building that we have, it was very easy to make that happen for them. So I can't say enough about how effective it has been for businesses to count on us to do what we can do best for them. Anybody else? Any other value regional comments you want to make, value add to you? All right. I'm going to wrap up this part of the slide and then move on to Ted.
Next slide, please. Thank you. What does it take? Huge question. What does it take? And our team has put together some bullet points within context of what we believe it takes to make a regional business service team move forward. Commitment. This team had a commitment of the local workforce directors to allow our business service agents, no matter what their actual titles are, to spend time as part of this group to move this forward. And these directors also include the agency directors from DHS, ICCB, and DRS. We were all committed to this process and moving this forward. We also had to commit to not allowing EOs to overstate it, but to be able to collectively manage the process and give off to those who needed the lead the projects. We had to make sure we were able to give as team members and support each other. Engagement with local business service team members. The directors pull from the local areas to participate on this regional team, but the regional team also has responsibility to take that information back to the local teams and make sure we're providing those local teams with information and resources as we develop that on a regional level. Willingness to work as a collaborative, without a doubt. We cannot work independently. We have found our best work comes when we do it together. That comes with the day-to-day work with our business community, preparing for new initiatives such as grant proposals. We have found again that our work together is much more purposeful, and results come from that shared effort. Engagement with core partner staff. initially it started with LWIA 1. The engagement then encompassed the other 3 core partners, Title 2, Title 3, and Title 4. And we found that to be a tremendous opportunity for us to work together on a lot of initiatives throughout this EDR. In-person meetings. Yes, we were working really well toward having in-person meetings. Those meetings, we found in a 2-hour span, we accomplished a lot of information, and we need to go beyond that 2 hours, sometimes into 3. But we also pivoted as things turned with COVID-19 into a virtual environment. And we did not give up on our goals to work as a regional team committed to the success of this region, job seekers, and the employer community that we serve. At the bottom, you see it takes one success to make it real. We focus on one success at a time. Though we have many initiatives that are going, we're still focused on creating success one at a time through all the engagement and all the partnerships that have existed. We've seen the sharing of information where we had, in one respect, a healthcare unit in one area that was seeing some decrease, but we had needs in an adjacent area for those same individuals. Through the conversation with this business service team, we found that we could make this work. We can help people transition very smoothly to other opportunities whenever possible. So what does it take? We've listed those things that we believe as a team that are critical as we move through in order to make a regional team work. With that, I would turn over to Susan Flessner for closing and questions and answer.
Great, thanks, Ted. They say an army travels on its stomach, but our business services staff travel on lunch and snacks. I think almost every person mentioned either the lunch that we had at their meetings or snacks that they have at their meetings, and you are my kind of people. So thank you to all the members of the panel. We will take any questions that anyone has for any of the members of the panel. We'll open it up. Everyone, you can unmute everyone, correct, Kirsten?
So since there are 90 attendees, I ask that you just raise your hand. And then if you raise your hand, I can unmute you, or you can feel free to post any questions in the chat and we will facilitate them.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So as of right now, there are not any questions that came in the chat. Oh, here we go. Catherine McDaniel would like to know, did you go across state lines with your job fairs? We are a border town.
Great question. Who'd like to take that? Maybe Lake Counties or McHenry, since you border.
Yeah, I can. This is Jeff at LWIA 1, Lake County. Yeah, we are a border town as well. We're based out of Waukegan, and Kenosha in southeast Wisconsin is a major metropolitan area. In fact, some of our facts and figures and data that we get include that area. And anytime that we have a flyer or a employer job fair, I share with the LWIA in Wisconsin, the local job center in Wisconsin, and they blast out that flyer. I said earlier about marketing, and this is included in that. So we share each other's flyers. We do have employers like Rust-Oleum, for instance, has some facilities in southeast Wisconsin, as well as they're based out of Lake County and Buffalo Grove. So we share, we let them aware of our Get Hired Illinois virtual job fair program. And then we also did some local hiring, introducing them to local training providers. So a training provider could provide some CNC training for some maintenance mechanics that they were looking for out of the Wisconsin facility. So it's just by sharing of that flyer, and again, they're not part of our regional team, but through introductions, hey, can you pass this flyer along for me? We've been able to do that for social media as well as our websites as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Anyone else have comments to add to that question? That's a great question. I mean, we talk about that businesses don't recognize county borders, and I think in terms of fishing in qualified employees, they don't care about state lines or boundaries either. So it's a good question.
As of right now, we don't, but we'll give everyone a couple seconds if they want to type something.
Susan Theodore Duckett,
Go ahead, Ted.
I would add that one of the many great things of this team, but just one is that we have individuals who have great talents in specific areas, and the team plays to those talents as we develop processes and initiatives. And I would say for myself, I understand what I am good at. I understand what others may be better at. And by having that communication process in place, we're able as a team to be the best that we can be.
Well said. Thanks, Ted.
Okay, so at this time, there are no other questions. I wanted to close us out with some housekeeping things. We are ending a couple minutes early today, unless there's any other questions that come through. So here we go. I feel like as soon as I always start with the closing statements, there's always some questions that pop through. So Roger F. Fisher would like to know, has anyone done virtual job fairs if commuting from a distance is not possible? And do you feel like they are beneficial?
Speak to that. This is Jessica Barkwell from LWIA 6, DuPage County. We have referred quite a few employers to the Illinois WorkNet virtual hiring event. They have on their website an area where an employer can set up a standing employer booth, so they can put a little blurb about their company, list the different types of roles they're hiring for, and then usually there's a link to direct individuals to their careers page. They can also set up and do a virtual hiring event, which is usually done on Zoom from the ones that I've observed. And it seems to be hit or miss in terms of job seeker attendance, but I've attended some where there have been a good number of job seekers that were really interactive with the employer. I've attended some where, there were maybe 1 or 2 job seekers and it wasn't as interactive, which really mirrors hiring events in person. So it's something that is really not a huge investment in terms of time or resources for the employer to set up and give it a shot if it's something that they're interested in doing. And it's definitely something that I know has resulted for a few employers, at least in some hiring. So I would definitely have no hesitation in recommending that to employers.
Yes, Jessica, this is Tom Mraz, DCEO. If I could add, the virtual job fairs on Illinois WorkNet have been gradually growing, and now there's over 500 employer booths, and those represent over 27,000 open positions.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I'm glad to hear that, because as we continue to get the word out to employers, I think that's another good fact to be able to throw at them, that it's something that's continuing to grow. It's not dying down as the year has gone on. So thank you for that.
This is Sherry, and I just wanted to share something else along these lines that I have learned from working with this regional services team. A lot of times, I know up in that area, it matters about where the employer is versus where the customer or the employee would live. But by sharing it regionally, we also pick up people who may not necessarily live close to that business, but they may come into the area all that time for going to college. Perhaps they come to that area, they live somewhere else, but they come to the area where the job is because they have an aging parent or a family member that they check on. So that's why it's so important to always share things regionally, because we never know if a person has the capability, or maybe they are in that area a lot more than we think they are, and then that creates a great job opportunity. But this group has been really great to share that, and I've learned a lot about the logistical part of the whole area by what I've seen demonstrated on this group. So it's good to keep in mind.
I agree with that. This is Jeff from LWIA 1 up in Lake County. We found that we're such a broad, wide county that we're actually able to reach more job seekers throughout the county in our western portion of the county, as well as the eastern metropolitan areas of the county. But what we do as well is we do these individual hiring events, and we give the employer 20 minutes to talk about their company, talk about all the positions they have, and then make sure that they have the contact information out there. So it's really directed. We're bringing the supply and the demand together, the job seeker and the employer together for a one-on-one. So at a job fair, you got people stacked up. You only have a few seconds to talk about your company, or you only have a few seconds to talk about what you're looking for in an employer. Well, with this type of scenario, we're actually getting more and more, and it's spreading word of mouth. So one employer is seeing somebody else do it. Hey, can we do one of those? And then certainly we set them up, and we try to plan them out 3 to 4 weeks in advance. But what else happens, and again, I mentioned it earlier, is the marketing. We let our IDES partners know about this event, and they have the ability to blast it out to job seekers and their connection, their networking areas. So it definitely helps with attendance when you bring your partners in for these individual events. So thanks again, everyone.
Thanks, Jeff. And thanks to everyone on the panel. This was very interesting. I mean, you can tell even over Zoom how passionate you guys are about not only what you do, but about the opportunity to work with your colleagues throughout the region in addition to your local efforts. So thank you very much for your comments today, and I will turn it back over to Kirsten.
Yes, thank you so much, Susan. What a great Q&A session that was, and a full panel discussion for the whole session. So hopefully everyone on this session enjoyed today, and it was recorded, and all the recordings will be up on the Illinois Workforce Academy website, which is the same website that the whole summit is hosted on for today and tomorrow. Within 2 weeks, we will have all the recordings up. And so you can feel free to access these at a later time. All the presentation materials will be along with them as well. And we hope you enjoyed this session, and we look forward to the next session. Next up, I believe we have our lunch sessions. Just a reminder that there are 3 separate lunch sessions, which will be open discussions. And the third session has a sign language interpreter, but all 3 sessions have closed captioning. So if you do need the sign language interpreter as well, please be sure to join the third lunch session. And we will see you for lunch. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good job, team.